Yeah, hey guys, Romie here. So, I've been waiting for a moment to go and speak on this because I needed the moment because it was just like one after the other, after the other, after the other. So, yeah, so this whole thing started on Tuesday. The foolery has never stopped, but it started up again in full force on Tuesday. On Tuesday, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, a man by the name of Alton was shot and killed by two policemen. This occurred because there was a verbal altercation with a homeless man who right now is being reported as actually calling the cops. The reason why the cops came, the homeless man that he was arguing with called the cops on him and was saying that the guy, Alton, was flashing his gun and all of this. And Alton, what he was doing, which is what he's been doing for the past 5 years or so, where out in front of this storefront, basically kind of like a bodega if you're used to the tri-state area. What was going on is he was selling CDs, and he sells CDs at this storefront all the time. He actually knows the owner of the store. I believe it's an Asian man. I forgot his name. But there's just like they're actually friends. He had consent to do so. Long story short, the police came and confronted him, asking him what was he doing. Well, actually, not even really having much of a conversation of a dialect. It was conversation. It was more so, okay, take his stuff and go. You hear me? Take your stuff and go. That's where they were coming from. And so he, of course, is like, what's going on? What's going on? Because if someone's coming to you and saying, well, you have to take your things and you have to leave, you're going to wonder why. I mean, that's just common sense. You're going to wonder why. You're going to want to know why is it that they're telling you that you have to go, that you have to leave. What did I do? What did I do? Again, Alton didn't threaten to actually physically hurt the homeless man, but the homeless man felt threatened, so I'm not really sure where he got the phone from, or if it was a payphone or whatever. Again, so the police are here now, and they're being combative. At some point, a physical altercation occurs, and I'm trying to figure out, how are you afraid of someone who... How are you afraid of someone who is on the ground? First, you're telling him to get on the ground, even though you already have him on the ground. So that's one. And then two, how is it that you're terrified? Because that's the thing. The cops that have been involved with all this foolishness, I have to be honest, I really don't feel like it's racism as far as just hate and pure old ignorance. I feel like it's fear that has been systematically trained into these police officers, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, Native American, whatever race, color, or creed. It's very clear that they all have, they as in the ones who are fearful and do the dumb stuff, not dumb, but the disgusting stuff like this, they're all fearful of minorities. I'm not even going to say just black people. I'm going to say minorities in general, because we know there's still killings that go on every day. These are the ones that are just being reported. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, where is it coming from? Is it partially coming from the fact that you have the media that always paints a minority doing a crime in a certain fashion, and unless it's absolutely horrendous and mental illness can't be a factor in this, or even ISIS in some cases, someone who is a part of the majority, whatever that majority is at the time, goes and you'll see a mugshot of them and they're smiling and they're happy. And you would think, okay, maybe psychologically that would piss people off because of what they did. But no, people are just like, oh, what did he do? What did she do? When they see, of course, a mugshot of, let's say, the minority that is angry, that is upset, that looks like he or she wants to kick someone's butt, then they're like, oh, okay, I can see why that person got arrested. They must have done something. This is all psychology, people. This is partially why you have these minorities that are being killed, because some of these policemen are being brought up in a system to where they're being psychologically taught, because they're coming from all over the country to go to these different academies, and then they go and they work in different areas where a lot of the times they're not from those areas. So I'm not even going to say that, again, that it's just blatant racism. I'm saying that some of these people are systematically trained so that they see a certain type of person and certain look, and then they handle it a certain way. We know that is true. The issue is that all of a sudden, people are dying left and right. Before, it used to be people possibly being wrongfully accused, but at least they were just being taken to jail, and then you had to let the courts handle that. Nowadays, it's, oh my gosh, this person's possibly a threat. The man that we're currently talking about, yes, he did have a gun in his possession, but the whole thing was, if you look at the video, it actually took them, it took a good hard yank out of his pocket, the policeman, in order to go and get the gun out of his pocket. Just to let you know that it wasn't even a situation where it was right there ready to go. They shot him, what, 5 times? They shot him 5 times because they were so afraid of someone that they had tackled and restrained, and he didn't have a weapon, they didn't have a weapon directly pointed towards them or anything like that. And so then you start thinking, well, you know, so-and-so, this must be all because of the fact that, well, and another thing, always changing the narrative of these stories by trying to make it, what the hell is that? Make it seem like these people are just so horrible. Now, I don't know the full details of the sexual assault or sexual thing that he had going on in the early 2000s. I don't know the details on that, but I love how that's one of the first things that come out, and that's how you're trying to spin the narrative. You try to make him seem like just this sexual predator who, oh, well, you know, at the end of the day, he did that, so he definitely deserves it, even though we don't even know the full story. We don't know what the real truth is behind that. If you do, please let me know, because I honestly don't. And again, it's those double standards. It's amazing. It's amazing in the worst way possible. And let me go and get these policemen's names just so that I can do them some justice. Because, of course, at this point, they're on administrative leave. And when you see the blood on the car from Alton, and then you see his son crying, because normally we don't see the kids. We see his son crying because of the fact that his father's gone and he wants his daddy. He wants his daddy, you know, and we talk about how, these men, these fathers, these no good fathers, black men not being fathers, all that. This man was, and now guess what? Now you have a son who knows what psychological damage is going to occur because of this. The mom had to be so strong. Shout out to his wife, because and then they want, I'm telling you, I wanna make sure that I go and at least get the names of these damn police officers before I get this guy's. I'm still. This happened a couple of days ago, and oh, screw it. I'll just put in the video, because right now, yeah. So yeah, there, and then the next day, so that was an example of, we'll say, oh, well, because he did this or he did that, it possibly warranted them acting a certain way. Well, I'll tell you about a little story of what happens when you do everything that the officers tell you to do, and, excuse me, you still get killed. You still get killed. Now, sorry if I mispronounce his name. Oh yeah, and my condolences to the Sterling family. So now we're going to move on, because that was part 1. Part 2 is Philando Castile. Yeah, he, again, I apologize. I've been constantly messing up that name in my head. He did everything that they tell you you're supposed to do. You know, he followed the rules. They were pulled over, and of course, story. They really tried to blow it up his house. Like, yeah, they were in possession of some marijuana. I'm thinking, oh, okay, what does that have to actually do? Officer, that again, he was also in possession of a gun. So he was like, I'm gonna go and I'm going to get my identification so I can show it to you so that we can go and whatever maybe would happen. You know what happens next? You know what happens next? The police officer, after this man told you what he was going to do, you decided to take it upon yourself to bug out and go and shoot him. You go, you shoot him and kill him, and then you're freaking out because you're like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. I can't believe I did that. Or, well, I shouldn't say he said he can't believe he did that. It's just like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that. But it's funny, not funny, but it's interesting how you have that type of reaction, even though you actually told dispatch that you're pulling over this guy because the couple looks suspicious. They look suspicious. They look like people. So you're profiling them based on an earlier robbery or earlier crime that happened. And the only reason why that's partially okay is because of the fact that you went and checked it out because they looked similar. Up until you continue to blab on and you actually divulge the fact that, you know, because he has the same wide nose as the person who allegedly did the earlier crime. That's why this man died. Because he had the same wide nose as another criminal. So you're telling me if I was technically dressed the way he was and my nose looked the way he did, I would have gotten pulled over. I'm the type that I comply with authority. I don't like getting in trouble. I'm actually one of those that do everything I can to make sure I don't get in trouble within reason. And it's interesting because they tell you to follow the rules. They tell you as long as you cooperate, as long as you're non-offensive and you act a certain way and you dress a certain way and you conduct yourself a certain way, then you should be fine. You should be fine. That's BS! That's clearly BS. And you want to know why that's clearly BS? Because in this case, this man actually went above and beyond what the normal person who would get pulled over would do and how he or she would interact with a police officer. And again, this is another situation where the police officer was scared, clearly scared and uncomfortable with this minority. He was scared, and so he went and reacted the way that he did. I'm tired of these, because I actually took a criminal justice class, I think two, actually, in college, and the ex-police officer who was there informed me about how you'll have some, he even admitted, he was like, you'll have some of these police officers who had these complexes of, you know, they were always picked on or they were seen a certain way in high school or in school. So then they go out and become they become police officers so that they can gain a certain amount of power and automatically command a certain amount of respect. But they're still weak little boys and girls. And I'll say in girls, even though we're only really seeing the men. Here's the other part. So you have these weak people getting all of this power, and so they go and use their power for evil. And then you also have the good police officers, and when I say the good ones, I mean there's some, of course, who talk out regardless and say, you know, what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. But you have a majority because of this, what is it, the code of blue, I believe it's called, to where you're pretty much brainwashed into knowing that you better not say anything about another police officer regardless of what they're being accused of, because if you do, that looks bad on all of us. If one of us looks bad, all of us look bad. So none of us could actually speak out against it, even if we know that it's wrong, because if we do, then it's going to mess with the department. And so when you have that type of society, it breeds foolishness, and it rewards people who do wrong because they know that they can get away with it. And it's disgusting. And then also the fact that, you know, the man's girlfriend, you know, she was detained for hours. I think 5 hours if I'm not mistaken. And thank God she cooperated with the police. Thank God she recorded it. Thank God she cooperated with the police, because she told them, she completely cooperated even after her man died, was just killed in front of her, in front of her daughter. And her daughter was the one who was trying to console her. In what world? See, this is I almost want to say thank God she was young. She was young enough. She was old enough to where she understood what happened, but young enough to not really feel the emotional ramifications. I'm sure now, like once she realizes, oh my gosh, this man is gone out of my life, she's going to feel it. But, I mean, what do you do? What can you do? And I must say, I appreciate all of these celebrities and people who have been a lot more vocal this time, because even people like Jay-Z and Beyonce, who we know do stuff for the Black Lives Matter movement and in general, but they've been really vocal or visually vocal this time. And the thing about Black Lives Matter, I want to get on that as well. Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that all lives doesn't matter. Black Lives Matter means that in this society, a lot of black lives are seen as less than to certain people in power. And so because of that, this movement has occurred to where Black Lives Matter too. That's what Black Lives Matter really means. Black Lives Matter too. So I'm tired of people being offended. I clearly know that you matter and think that you matter. I did not say Black Lives Matter only. No. So how are you reading it as Black Lives Matter only? No, it's Black Lives Matter too. Everyone matters. Everyone matters. We know this. If this was a war out on Hispanics, Native Americans, now not when their land was originally captured, but Native Americans, Asians, and you want to go and protest and do all of that, you have the right and the ability, and you should be allowed to do so. I'm still trying to figure out why is it that when black people, African Americans, what have you, at least in this country, I know foolery goes on in other countries as well regarding black people, but in this country, the mantra is, everything's all well and good until black people try to say that they're important and that they matter and they have certain things to themselves. Well, you know what? It's interesting how it's not okay for everything that I just said to be true or hold some type of truth in it, but it's okay to accept our money, accept us working for you. You get where I'm coming from, right? So that's pretty much it regarding what happened. So definitely my condolences to both families. And in my next video, I will talk about, his name is Micah. What's the dude's name? Micah Johnson. He's the Army veteran, the Black Army veteran who we found out actually shot at the police officers. I believe this is in Dallas, Texas now. And actually there's been a couple of incidents where police were getting attacked, I think mainly in the South. And that's not okay either, because, you know what, screw it. All of this is gonna be in one video. Screw it. Screw it. So the issue is that Micah took it upon himself, and I hate the fact that he tried to attach himself to some reports saying he didn't attach himself to Black Lives Matter. Other reports are saying he absolutely attached himself to Black Lives Matter. And that's the issue. You have these people who want to go and further their own agendas, and so they attach themselves to organizations, and so those organizations, those religions get look bad and get tarnished, while because of someone who just wanted to do bad and wanted an excuse for it. This man went and he shot at, I believe, 10 to 11, I'm going to say 10 police officers. 5 of them are unfortunately killed. Now this is where you're like, what is going on? Because it went from, they were protesting, of course, because of what happened and what's been happening in the past few days. So there was a major protest. It was peaceful. Everything was Everything was actually going well until this man decided that, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to sniper style and shoot at these policemen. I'm not sure if he had something wrong with him mentally because he came from the war, and we know a lot of times there's something that happens. But again, even though he's black, I don't want to hear that excuse. You still decided you thought it was a good idea to go and shoot at these police officers, thinking that that type of violence will go and be their just desserts for what some other people did. They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, but you decided to go and harm them and affect their families because of this. That's the thing I don't agree on. Who actually thinks it's okay to go and, in this day and time, to just go and kill off people because some other people are killed, and the people that you actually are killing off didn't do anything at all, at least to our knowledge, haven't done anything. Or at least hurt. And then even I believe 2 civilians, or like 12, 2 civilians were hurt, 12 civilians were caught in the crossfire. So it's just ridiculous. What type of, and he's saying he worked alone. Oh, that's great. That's great. So you did all this foolishness and you worked alone. That makes everything so much better. I am so tired of this BS. I'm so tired of it. And I'm just afraid because, you know, I'm honestly not afraid personally for myself, only because of the area in which I live and, you know, how I normally conduct myself and how people see me. But I'm not dumb. That's why people wonder why, oh, it's like you only say you go to certain areas. You're damn right, because I pray every day, and if the Lord tells me, no, don't do this, don't go there, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You want to go and risk your life and be in certain areas, I'm not doing it. When I get pulled over, even I'm nervous in general, but the police officer isn't treating me like crap or like I'm not human. I like that. I want to keep it that way. I don't want to go certain areas and experience that. But the other issue is, there's actually one more thing that I need to talk about because, again, it's with the police officers. There's also a quota of arrest. People don't know this, but there is a quota of arrest that police officers are supposed to get and maintain. And so that's part of the issue as well. These police officers, these men and women of blue, they're told they have to arrest a certain amount of people, and they're even given certain parameters for certain drugs, for certain offenses. And so that causes a lot of minorities to be targeted, because they're going to arrest people, for example, that they assume would have a higher chance of having something on the books in the past. And so it's easier to convict them. It's easier in general because they may not know their rights. And so a lot of minorities, and at this point I'm not even just talking about black people, minorities period, it could be poor, it could be anyone in the hood, ghettos, Hispanic, anyone who is a minority in this country, and they're seen as less than as in socially, economically, and the likelihood of them possibly being able to fight back is so minimal that you can pretty much say that they did anything and you're golden. Your quota is met. It's happening. It's real. Just watch a video of a bunch of policemen who just talked about it. And so I wanted to put it out there as well. The system is completely flawed, completely messed up, and it should be up to us to start to do something about it. We need to demand more. We need to first start real reform in those academies, because something goes awry in those damn academies when they're told this is how you're supposed to treat people and handle people, minorities, all of that a certain way. And then they come out and they go to these different districts, and because they have these different quotas and they're told that basically whatever happens, they still have to be true to their fellow men and women in blue. And so that's all I have for you. Again, I normally talk about other stuff, so if you're interested in looking at some more light-hearted things, I have a lot of them, a lot of videos, but I just thought it was really important for me to go and at least say something, because this is a platform, and as a black person with this type of platform, I should be at least saying something, because if it had to do with another minority group, another situation, I would be talking about it. So I shouldn't be afraid to talk about things happening in my community and happening in communities that are technically similar to mine, and even if they're not.